Kingman, Arizona is known all over the world for this. Its connection to legendary Route 66. It's one of the towns mentioned, like Winona and St. Louis and Barstow, in a little song about getting your kicks on Route 66. If Kingman had a theme, it would be transportation. Town dates to the early 1880s, 1881, 1882, when it was established as a railroad construction camp on the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad. But the transportation history predates that by a long shot. There was a Native American trade route that cut through this country long before the Europeans got here. It connected villages to the east, possibly even the Zuni Pueblos, or maybe even Gran Quivira in New Mexico, all the way to the villages of the Mojave down on the Colorado River, and across the Mojave Desert all the way to the coast of California. When European explorers first came to this country, well, of course, they followed that trade route because the folks who lived here knew where the water was at. Father Garces expedition, 1776, first European trip across here. Well, then we had a few American explorers, a fellow named Sitgreaves, namesake for Sitgreaves Pass on Route 66 in the Black Mountains. Lieutenant Beale, there's a fellow you need to read about. You talk about having some exploits and living an interesting life. He was tasked with mapping a route across northern Arizona along the 35th parallel. And part of that adventure was not only mapping a road, but seeing if camels were a viable option for military transport in the Southwest. The fellow who authorized that was Secretary of War Jefferson Davis. Jefferson Davis thought he was making a career move in the 1860 period, became the President of the Confederate States of America. But Lieutenant Beale is not the only colorful character associated with Kingman, or the only celebrity, or, well, the only personality. There's an example for you. Does this fellow look familiar? Having my statue here along Route 66 I was very honored and I was humbled, but as I told Kingman Main Street and the folks who authorized this, I sure wish they would have waited till I was dead. This is a starting point for a real innovative, narrated, self-guided historic district walking tour here in Kingman. We also have the Route 66 Walk of Fame. The narrated self-guided tour brings to life not only the history, but it tells the story behind some of the public art, such as the statue I just showed you. That was created by J. Ann Butler. She's an internationally acclaimed sculptress. That makes it even more of an honor. She works in bronze and porcelain. But I digress. We've got more character stories to tell you. As I said, Kingman was established as a railroad town. The Atlantic and Pacific Railroad followed Beale's Road in the early 1880s. This is the third depot. The others, well, they burned down. Seems to be a common theme here. This is a corner of 4th Street and Andy Devine Avenue. This is pretty much ground zero. This is where Kingman was first laid out and established. This was the focal point for development, if you will. Now, let me see if I can explain this to you. Route 66, from 1926 to about late 1936, early 37, came into Kingman on this street from the west, up 4th Street, to what was then Front Street, and then continued east. After 1936-37, Route 66 was realigned, run down this street. Now, if you're younger than about 65 years of age, well, Andy Devine probably is not gonna, you're not gonna know much about that fella, but he was a prolific character actor, all the way from the silent movie era into the late 1960s. He was born in Flagstaff, Arizona, but his father, Thomas Devine, bought the Hotel Beale in 1906. So Andy kind of grew up here in Kingman. In 1955, on a special episode of This Is Your Life, they renamed Front Street Andy Devine Avenue. Now this next street down, that is Topeka Street. That was South Front Street. Now, the predecessor to Route 66 was the National Old Trails Road. It came in from the west on 4th Street, and until 1921, continued along South Front Street to Slaughterhouse Canyon. That would have been the road followed by Lewis Chevrolet and Barney Oldfield during the last of the Desert Classic automobile races, dubbed the Cactus Derby. That was in the fall of November 1914. And in the summer of 1915, Edsel Ford and his college buddies. Now, Edsel, a lot of people, when you hear the name Edsel, they think of the car that looks like a Buick sucking a lemon. Well, Edsel was actually Henry Ford's son, and like Tourist on Route 66, in another generation, National Old Trails Road was quite popular. People followed that road west because of the scenic beauty, the Grand Canyon, the Painted Desert, the Native American culture. Well, Edsel Ford and his college buddies in July of 1915 followed that road. To give you an idea how bad things were in those years, his entry in his travel journal from 1915, July 16th, mentions that they left Williams that morning, Williams, Arizona, and arrived there at the Hotel Brunswick at midnight. Quite a little trip. The Brunswick Hotel also has an association, according to local legend, with Clark Gable and Carol Lombard. They married here in Kingman in 1939 and had an impromptu wedding reception at the Brunswick Hotel. I don't know about that for sure, but I do know that they did marry in Kingman, March 1939. Now, everything, the Hotel Beale dates to 1900. It replaced the Hobbs House, which went up in flames. And the block west here, pretty much all burned in 1906. Henry Lovin built this saloon in 1966. It's a territorial connection there. I'll tell you more about Henry Lovin in a future episode. He was pivotal to the development of western Arizona. The Hotel Beale, well, there's quite a celebrity connection here too. Harry Carey filmed a movie north of Kingman in 1918, Ace of the Saddle, at Tap Duncan's Ranch near Hackberry, Arizona. Stayed here. Buster Keaton was here in 1925 filming Go West at Tap Duncan's Ranch. 28-29, Charles Lindbergh was working on establishing TAT Airlines, Transcontinental Air Transport. And this included Port Kingman An air terminal. TAT, Transcontinental Air Transport, was one of the first passenger airlines, national, coast to coast. And Charles Lindbergh was a frequent guest here during that period. Amelia Earhart stayed here for the ribbon cutting. Definitely on hard times. Louis L'Amour, the Western rider. Well, he used to do a bit of amateur boxing when he was working the Catherine mines outside of Kingman on the Colorado River. This was the Sump Bar down in the cellar. Had a boxing ring. I do know that he did some boxing there, but I can't tell you that he a little bit of a local legend is that he won a few rounds with Jack Dempsey. Well, I can't verify that, but I can tell you that Jack Dempsey did stay at the Hotel Beale. Well, I hope you found this interesting. We got lots more to show you here in Kingman, but we'll just let this be a teaser, if you will. It's not exactly an adventure with lost highways, but it's definitely an adventure on forgotten highways. Join us again for another episode from Jim Hinckley's America. Until we meet again, my friends, adios.